Hey guys, Pete Ramsey here on behalf of Kelley McKay, the HVAC Millionaire. Welcome to the podcast where Kelley and I talk about HVAC business. Kelley McKay, what's going on, my brother?
Not much, man. Just you know, uh I had an epiphany today. We haven't
Uh-oh.
talked about this, but so I went to the eye doctor just to get checked out. It's been since sometime in 2020 was the last time I went, and I'm ready for a new new pair of glasses anyways. Mine are getting all kind of scuffed up and stuff, but I was sitting in there and I was waiting for the doctor to come in to test my eyes, and I saw this chart, like the old, like
Eye
you always
chart.
see in a doctor's office, and yeah, it had the eye chart, and it's like a schematic almost. Like you've got all these lines of all this stuff happening within the eye, and I just thought to myself, I'm going to make a post about this actually, and post it in one of my groups.
Okay.
But I got to build another graphic to go side by side with it so it makes sense. But when we open a business, we think that, oh, we're just looking at the eye. Like if you're like, here's the business, it's this eye. But then when you start dissecting it, like this chart did, you see how many parts and pieces there are to the eye, and it's not all visible from the perspective of when you before you started your business and until after you start your business. You start realizing this there are many levels to this. And I don't know, it was just kind of a, I don't know if I would call it an epiphany. It made sense to me when I saw that. I'm like, you know what? Here's me, like HVAC business brain, and I'm comparing an eye chart to an HVAC business. But you get what I'm saying? Like,
I
do you?
do.
Yeah,
And I think that's with experience and anything in life. And that was one of the things about business that that really um, that really started kicking in later in life. And what you just reminded me of. I'm talking to a young business owner in his early 30s, and the challenges that he is having right now are surprisingly basic. And I'm thinking, buddy, you've got a long ways to go. And but
yeah,
he's got the right attitude. Okay. And so I know he's going to get there. But there, like you said, I mean, you can't get this up here until you really get the foundational stuff and build upon that, and then you're able to get the greater concepts. And I mean, none of this is rocket science. I mean, if you think back of anything you've ever accomplished in your life, when you're on the front end of that looking up, it seemed massive. But after you've conquered it, you look back and you go, I could tackle bigger things than these than this one I just did. And so I agree.
yeah.
But what it does for you is it does shape the way you approach things from, is it a mental perspective? Is it a mindset perspective? How would you word it, Kelley?
I think it, a lot of it's a mindset. Everybody says nobody believes, or it sounds so cliche, and that mindset is, and Tony Robbins has been saying this forever, like it's 80% mindset, 20% mechanics. Well, it is a mindset. You do have to have a mindset of, I can figure this out. I can build this, whatever it takes. But in order for any of that to happen, like there has to be a burning desire. If
Motivation. Yeah.
what I see a lot of people doing is they start their business, and then it's the old saying, like they think they want to start a business so they can have more free time or be their own boss or say no when they want to say no. Well, if you say no, you don't have a business pretty quickly if you're just starting out.
And
There's a lot of, I mean, you got to go to work to pay the bills. You got to make money.
yeah,
And
it's
so,
consistent action. And you said it's a burning desire.
yeah,
A lot of people they start their business because they don't want to have to report to a boss, and they want to be their own boss and basically work at their own speed. And basically they're lazy business owners. and they're really not even a business owner. They're definitely not an entrepreneur. It's more of I work for myself or I'm an independent than it is to hit the next level. And I want to say this because I'm leading up to something that you do a lot of. You do a lot of challenges, a lot of business challenges. I've heard you talk about that many times. And the reason that I'm a big fan of those is because if you don't have that internal desire, but you have an external pressure, the result is the same. It's the consistent behavior. And we were, before the recording, you and I were talking about exercise and lifting weights. The times that I was in the best shape of my life was after doing a challenge, a physical challenge. Back in the day, there was a guy by the name of Bill Phillips, and he wrote a book called Body for Life. And he had a
I
challenge.
remember that book. Yeah, I never read it, but I remember Bill Phillips and I remember Body for Life.
So I did that. I entered the challenge. I sent my pictures before and after, and
Yeah.
it was 3 months. And I followed his diet and everything else, and my body totally changed. I mean, it was like two different persons. Before and after pictures were really impressive. And wherever I was in my early 30s, I think it was mid 30s, and then we were talking about 75 hard, which is another one. And I failed that one. I made it. You have to go 75 days in a row, and if you miss one thing, you start over. And I got to like day 40. I think I talked about this before, 45, 43, something like that. I got real sick and I just couldn't shake it off. So I was, getting up every morning and with a fever trying to push through it. It was just bad.
Yeah.
But it was that external that became internal fuel, the drive to force the consistent behavior. The rest just happened. But how do you hold yourself to that level of accountability on a consistent basis where every day you get it done? The internal drive that you're talking about, yeah. If you've got that,
Yeah, you have to have that. If you don't have that, I just don't think you're going to make it as an entrepreneur. You need to go
but,
work for somebody. That's
or
the
can
bottom
you
line.
develop that? Can you develop that? I mean, or once
I don't
lazy,
know
always
because
lazy.
I feel like I was just born with that, to be honest with you. As soon as I learned that money bought things when I was like 7 years old, then I was constantly asking my parents, like, what can I do? What can I do for money? What can I do for money? Because my parents, I didn't realize it at the time, but my dad was not, he wouldn't just go out and buy me what I wanted. I had to earn the money to go buy it myself. So, like, my cousins and my friends, they all had Nintendos. Kelly didn't have a Nintendo. We didn't have a VCR. I bought our VCR, our family VCR, with the money that I earned from shoveling dog shit, because my dad always had lots of dogs. We ran beagles, like field trials and hunted beagles. And he was always in, we always had, I mean, any point in my life, we had at least 6 to 10 dogs.
Yeah,
So those pens have to be cleaned every day. So I would clean pens, I would mow the lawn, I would haul whatever he wanted me to haul. I just was constantly working because I wanted to earn money so I could buy some of the stuff that my friends had.
that's interesting.
So that's always been in me. I don't or did they mold me into that? I don't know. But I've always had, like, even to this day, like, it just doesn't go away for me personally. I just have a burning desire to do more. I want more out of life because I know it's possible.
Well,
You-
I
I've
say,
seen,
I mean, I appreciate that you're born with that. I appreciate those who have that natural drive. A lot of it
yeah,
can come from those formative years when you were a kid, and what you had to
yeah,
do, and maybe you did without. And you had to go with make things happen, and that just became part of who you are. But
yeah, maybe,
I know that it can be groomed later. I mean, the later in life you wait, the harder it is. Trust me.
yeah,
I'm trying to get through change right now at age 59, and it's not as easy as it used to be. But when I joined the Army, I
yeah,
was 18 years old, and it really changed a lot about me because of that discipline, and it was external. I mean, you got a drill sergeant on your backside getting, I mean, just terrorizing you. You get up, you get moving. It really changes the level at which you're performing everything. I mean, from making your bed in the morning
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to the way that your uniforms hang. I mean, it's they have something called a gig line. Okay, and the gig line is that line down where you button up your shirt, and then the line where your zipper comes up, and then you have the belt buckle. There has to be a perfect line there. That's little things like that that they measure exactly the length of
Yeah.
the way your pants hang, and just if you have medals on your breast, they put there's a certain measurement, and everything. So it's done with such precision, and
Yeah.
it carried over into my civilian life. And I remember my mother's friends asking her, does your son iron his t-shirts? And I would iron all my t-shirts and put a crease down the middle. It was just like become part of who I was back then. But
Yeah.
it changes you. But I wouldn't have done that on my own had I not had that external molding. And I was well out of my teen years, well out of my formative years. So I think,
That's why I'm not so sure. I just don't have some of that built into me. Just I don't know where it comes from, but like as soon as I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger for the first time, I was watching like Conan the Barbarian.
I
Well,
saw
after
the same thing.
that, I'm like, well, how do I get big like Arnold?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started working out, and I've worked out my entire life since then. I never got big like Arnold. I didn't even learn about steroids till I was probably 18 because it used to be on the down low. Like nobody talked
Yeah.
about it in the
Sure.
bodybuilding scene. Nobody talked about it. All the muscle magazines, nobody ever talked about it. Well, then it finally hit the mainstream that people are using steroids, and that was like a Debbie Downer for me. but but
Debbie.
I've just I don't know. I feel like I've worked hard, but then here's another thing though. When it comes to like working out, for instance, I we talked about this briefly, but we joined a gym where it's kind of like group training about a year and a half ago. And so I would say like July this year would be 2 years if we stayed there. We stayed there for like a year and a half, right? So um and training with them and then putting me through all the rigorous routines and stuff, like they would just kick my butt at least twice a week, where I'm just like I can't hardly walk out to my car when I'm done. But it built me up, and then we
Sure.
wound up leaving that place because I wanted because they didn't have like free weights, and I hardly ever got to do just the core. I did like deadlifts and stuff, but I wanted, I wanted to do squats more. I wanted to continue to build my legs. I wanted some machines, and there's no machines there. So I went ahead, and my wife and I decided let's go to this other gym that's closer to home too. And so we started going there, and it's just called a bodybuilding. It's just an app called, let me see the name of it. Workout. It's called Workout. It's a great app. I really like it. It's really well done. You pick what style of training you want to do. Um, and then you pick your days that you're going to work, and then your goals and your body type and your age and all that stuff. And then it gives you a workout, and you just follow that workout. And dude, before we started working out in that group training, and if I would have just came to this right away, there's no way I could have finished the workouts. I just couldn't do it. So my point is that what I thought was working hard when it came to working out was not.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now that I know what working hard is, in the gym. So oftentimes too in the business, what you think is hard may not be hard yet. Does that make sense?
Well, that was kind of the question that was formulating in the back of my mind. Well, not in mind specifically. I'm thinking about to the listener. Okay, Kelley, what the heck does working out have to do with business? And I'm like here right with you because I can relate with that
Yeah.
because I mean it's a universal truth. And we're talking about 75 hard. Andrew Frisella, he does his
Andy,
podcast,
yeah, Andrew. So,
and when they have
never heard
podcasts,
anybody call him Andrew.
I say Andrew, I said Andy. I thought it Andy Frisella. Anyway,
Yeah.
he 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 performed. I mean, he's at this level, and it's like the 75 hard. Okay, 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes minimum. One of them has to be outdoors. Okay, it's not that bad. You get used to it. Holding your diet. I do the intermittent thing. Okay, you get used to it. So when you roll out and you're doing these things, and you're like, man, this takes discipline. This takes this takes
Yeah.
commitment, and it takes consistency. And so you start to do it, and like I got a friend of mine, he's done it several times, and it's just not a challenge to him anymore. And so
Yeah.
Andy has these interviews with these other high performers. The way these guys live, I mean, these guys are like up at 4 or 5 in the morning and getting more done,
Yes.
just like the commercial, before the work hour. And then they go to
Yes.
work and they're charged and they just live.
They're obsessed.
Yeah, they
They're
live.
obsessed.
And it's hard to imagine somebody living at that level and putting that type of output out and being happy. But yet they are, and they're not just happy, they're fulfilled, and they get off on it and they want more, and they continue to.
No. They're not always fulfilled. I watched there's a really good interview actually with Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. That was
Okay.
one of the it's recent, very recent, like just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And they talk about this, and it's more about going to war with yourself. And Andy talks about how he's really a tough person to be friends with, and he's tough to work with. Now, on days where they like record a podcast and they go hang out at home, that's a whole different story. But that's like once a month or twice a month. The rest of the time, he's turned on. Like he's turned on to work. He's turned on to like get GSD, get shit done. He's like
Yeah.
he's turned on to that high performer, and he has a really high standards, which it's hard. It'd be hard to work with. I would consider myself a hard worker, but like, am I? I mean, like,
Well,
working with Andy, he's got higher standards even than me, and that's why it's why he's been so successful. Like, it comes at a cost. I think people see people like him and they don't listen to the story. They just see his success. I mean, he's got a
yeah,
decade spent
everybody
living in
wants.
the back of his supplement store, like trying to make it. And eventually he just didn't give up. He didn't give up, and he just kept trying, kept trying. Eventually he made it, but he's obsessed with being success. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. That's just to each your own. If that's you, if you want to be a multi-millionaire and you want to become incredibly obsessed with your HVAC business and grow it that big, by all means do it. I believe in you. I'll just tell you that because I know it's possible. We
Well,
see it,
I think different people
but
are
it's not going to
motivated.
be for everybody.
Different people are motivated by different things, and you mentioned that early on. I've never been one that was just motivated by the money, and by the things that it could buy. Now, once I got a taste of what it could buy, it became more about the freedom than it was about the money. The things. I mean, I don't wear watches. I don't wear gold. I mean, I've got a watch around here somewhere, but the only jewelry I'll wear is my wedding band, and it's not on right now because I just don't like that kind of stuff. But for me, it was about purpose. It was about when I used to work for the manufacturer of heating and air, and we had a district manager, and he was a great leader. He was a young leader, and the upper management. I don't want to say which company. Most of you guys have heard my story. You probably know who I'm talking about. They were putting pressure on him because he was too close to his workers, and those were the territory managers, the guys that call on you and sell you your equipment, and he was really getting pressure for his district, us, to perform. And I remember we'd have these meetings, these district meetings, without the boss. We had them on our own because all of a
Yeah.
sudden we had a purpose. This guy, we wanted to keep him. So we're like meeting how we help each other. We go help each other and work in each other's territories and help bring on more dealers. And because it became about something bigger. And for me, that was the kind of stuff that I got off on. And like to this day, I could care less. I mean, Kelley, if we were just about the money, and I know you walk a similar line that I do, you could be making a heck of a lot more money than doing what you're doing right now. And I know I
Oh,
could, right?
come on.
But
Like I
I'm not willing to
yeah,
be that kind of a person. So it's
I
about
don't even, yeah.
changing somebody's life, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
but to the very point of this entire conversation, you can't change somebody's mindset. You can't change somebody's internal fuel. You can motivate, you can inspire, you can try to apply some external pressure if you want some accountability partner through mentorship or through a coaching relationship.
Yeah,
You can do those kind of things, but fundamentally, you got to have something within yourself.
yeah,
And sometimes that has to be encouraged and brought out of you. Like the Army brought a lot out of me, and life brings a lot out of Kelley and what he went through. And a lot of people have it too easy. They just watch a few YouTube videos and think they can be a heating and air tech because, um, I mean, no, I'm not knocking that. There's a lot to be learned these days. I didn't have that benefit, but you didn't either.
yeah. No, we didn't either. But I think that I think that I mean, working out is one of those things that I feel like if you can't push yourself in the gym, like you think you don't got anything left and you get that one more rep or just one, just two more or one more, like when you start, it's a mental battle. It's not physical,
It's you
even though
against
your
you.
muscles are tired, like mind over matter type stuff. If you do that, there's no question. I think there's plenty of scientific evidence that says that your resilience is going to go up, your confidence is going to go up, your self-esteem is going to go up, your fortitude or your ability or your self-efficacy, which is you start believing in yourself. Like you start believing this can't stop me. I can keep going. I can do this. I can get through this. You just get more resilient and more determined. And so I feel like someone who's never pushed themselves in the gym, I mean, I'm just going to say it, at any point in their life, I feel like you're going to struggle in business. Like I mean, not, so I could be wrong there because there can be other challenges that you've had to overcome
Yeah.
in life that made you really strong. So I'll back up and I'll say that.
Well,
However, if you've never had those types of challenges and had to overcome them and you're still standing and walking tall, then you know, work out, push yourself in the gym, find out what real hard work is. Like go hire a trainer
yeah,
that's going to put you through the ringers.
I forget who
And
said it, but to the extent that you can deny yourself, um, direct proportionally rewards will come. And I know I butchered whoever said it right the first time, but I mean, even that's a spiritual thing because in the Bible it talks about fasting, and that's denying the flesh, and it's hard to do. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done that, uh, but I do
I
the
was just
intermittent
listening to
fasting.
something that was talking about this. Yeah, having the control
Yeah,
over your food intake is like one of the top things that you could control that is so hard to control.
right.
Like
So
if you can master that.
telling your body no to
Yeah.
to what it's craving, and making your body do what it doesn't want to do, like in the case of working out,
Yep.
um, or going to work, or making that extra call, or doing that, knocking the big job out first. Tracy, Brian Tracy said, call that eating the frog.
Eat that frog. Yeah.
Yeah, if the worst thing you got to do all day is eat a frog, just eat the damn frog up front, and the rest of the day's downhill. So, whatever your big task is, knock it out first, and then watch what happens the rest of your day. Things like that. Um, it is mindset, and it is a constant challenge to yourself, and maybe to your point with those at those higher levels. I've never performed at that level, so I can't speak from experience. I've been pretty challenged though. I know I've been totally overwhelmed to the point my stress was so high. I literally blew a
Yeah.
fuse one time. I was like, I just physically
Yeah.
reset. Something, was just too much.
Yeah.
But again, that was learning to operate at that level. There's other people that can operate at that level, and it just doesn't seem to bother them quite as
Yeah.
much. But
I
a
think
lot
I
to
think you're
this.
right. I think there's different levels of tolerance out there. It's on a spectrum.
What doesn't kill
You,
you?
you get one person, you get one person who gets one bad review and they can't handle it. They literally can't handle it.
Right?
And then you
Yeah.
got this other person over here that's got 20 bad reviews and they're just cruising right along and they don't care. So
Yeah.
I think there can be a happy medium in
I
there,
agree.
but
I agree.
I do know what you're talking about. Like, some people just crumble under pressure,
So
but I
you,
think you build up your level of what you can tolerate as the business grows, if you decide to grow it.
what I did, Kelly, is really it was during the '90s. No, it wasn't. It was during the early 2000s. Because I'd sold my business in 2000. I'd had a lot of road time, just like the technicians do, and
Yeah.
I'd learned when I was a technician driving around to listen to stuff, but I would listen to audiobooks, and I somehow got a hold of. You mentioned Tony Robbins. He had a whole series called something Power, Personal Power, and I went through that
Yeah.
whole CD series, and it was interesting. He developed these exercises and these tools that would allow you to strengthen these internal things. And so
Yeah.
there's technologies out there that are really interesting. But I would listen to the sales trainers. I would listen to the personal development people, and then I would read the old classics, Think and Be Rich, Think and Grow Rich. Sorry, and how to make friends and influence people, which seems like I thought, why in the world would I want to read that? Until my dad recommended it to me. I said, well, I think I make friends just fine. He says, that's not what it's about. Read it,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, and so it did open up um, perspective on a lot of these things. And all of a sudden I could relate it to things in my life. I don't know if you feel the same way in that, actually, I do know the answer to this, in that reading a book from somebody who's well versed in that and it breaks it down for you and you can apply it to your own life allows you to grow, and actually it does improve your mindset and your ability to be disciplined and fight yourself and overcome that tendency to want to go to the couch or want to go play your games or want to whatever it is you
Yeah.
do to waste time. Um and
If
family
if
time is
you're
not a waste of time for
no, no. The problem with it's so real quick, I'll just touch on that because you just said you're getting into balance. Like what happens is business owners get out of balance. The reason they get out of balance because their business isn't working most of the time.
yeah,
Their business isn't something in the
I
business
agree.
is not working. And that throws off the balance. Well, then when that balance gets thrown off, what happens? Well, now our relationships start suffering. Now our health starts suffering. Now we're carrying around too much stress. Maybe we can't shut the damn business off when we're at home with the wife. I know lots of people who struggle with this, and I struggle with it too. So I'm not on a soapbox. I'm just saying that the more you understand about the psychology, as soon as you decided to be in business, believe it or not, you decided I'm going to be a psychologist. And if as soon as you hire people, you're also signing up to be a therapist.
Amen to that.
So
And a
so
daddy and a loan shark.
if you and think about this anyways, like when you're dealing with customers and stuff, sometimes you might be a therapist to a customer
Sure.
because they might lean on your shoulder, not physically, not directly, but indirectly with their stories, whatever story that's going on in their life. Like you may need to lend an empathetic ear once in a while. Um, but understanding how people think, how people, what drives their behavior, what drives their actions, and makes them think, say, and do
Yes.
certain things within your business. Also understanding what makes you think, say, and do things or not do, and understanding that and trying to get a grasp on that and just learning more about yourself. I think it's one of the number one things that every entrepreneur discovers at some point. If they don't quit or give up, they will discover that I've got to figure this out. And it all leads to personal development. And they'll, once they start learning that, then they start understanding themselves a little more. They start understanding their team a little more. They start understanding different aspects of leadership
Yeah. And
from this. Yeah.
adding to that balance, remember Stephen Covey talked about sharpening the saw? And essentially, the concept was the two lumberjacks, that push and pull saw, they're sawing the big trees. And if you go and go and go and go and go, if you don't stop and sharpen the saw periodically, the saw will lose its ability to cut. And you actually spend a tremendous amount of time not being effective. But if you just give yourself that rest and that break, it's counterintuitive, but we started doing this for spiritual reasons. But I take one day and I do absolutely no work. I don't email. I don't want nothing to do with work. I keep it rest day. And we do Saturday, the Sabbath, if you will. And in doing that, I mean, I was really surprised. I thought, okay, I'll have it. Because at first I'm wanting to look at the phone, or I'm wanting to,
totally
go do some training videos, something. But when I just said no work, no, just relax, the reset, and that next Monday, I mean, I'm out the gate, my brother, and it was the most eye-opening experience, just adding that one day a week to do that. So, yeah, kudos to that, that you brought up. Thank you about the balance. But while you're there, it's just like high school. I remember I hated high school because there was certain class you'd have to sit in there for an hour, and I just couldn't stand it. If you're there anyway, right? If you'll just go ahead and, read the darn homework, or read the assignment, maybe you'll have a decent grade. Maybe you'll actually learn something. You're there anyway, right? If you're at work, why not just go ahead and work? Why not go ahead and apply yourself? You're there anyway. The day's going to go by nonetheless. So if you can force yourself, as kind of like what you were indirectly saying, to do this on a consistent basis, to follow the structure, to and learn to balance multiple things, move to this and move to that, move to the other as you need to, then you can unplug and rest and not be all tied up and not be robbing time from your family because you procrastinated during the week and this, that, and the other. So it's not easy. It's a lot easier to let somebody else be your boss and tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and when you can rest and when you can go home and when not, than to have the discipline to do it yourself. But if you don't have the discipline, but you want to be the boss, you want to be like that guy on the commercial driving the fancy car, it's just you're easy prey to sharks in sales uniform or advertising. They're going to sell you this easy formula, and they're going to separate your money from you really fast.
I've always said, like, there's nothing easy to this, and I say it during our challenge weeks. I let everybody know, like, there's nothing easy about this. You guys already know. If you own a business for any amount of time, it's tough. Like, it's not easy, but with the right strategies, with the right insights, with the right formulas, like, things can get better. Things can get a lot better if you're really in a bad place. But you have to want that internally. Like, if you're just paying a coach or buying a course doesn't change anything. It's like when you buy, like, say Service Titan. If you decide, hey, I'm gonna add some awesome an awesome CRM to my business. I'm gonna add CRM. Okay, or I'm gonna add Service Titan. Okay, great. I love that. I I know the benefits of Service Titan. It's a robust software. It does a lot. You better have the time to get in there and learn it if you're gonna actually if it's gonna be worth it. But here's the thing: is that that software is not going to it's not going to save your business. It's not going to change anything in the business. Things will keep running the same as they are if you don't put in the work. You can pay the money every month, but if you don't use it and you don't get in there and learn it, nothing changes.
I
And
think
Service Titan's not going to reach out and say, Pete, I noticed that all you're doing in Service Titan since you've added on here is you're only writing service tickets. What's going on? Like Service Titan's not there to hold your hand to say, hey, hey, did you know it does this? Did you know it does that? I mean, they have an onboarding sequence and they take you through it and they're going to show you what it can do, but it's still up to you to get in there and put in the pieces to make it start working and learn the workflows so that it works properly. If you don't do the workflows properly, it's not going to spit out the right information that you're wanting. And there will be no consistency. So, yeah.
This is where that self accountability comes in, because what's going to happen is you're in the field, you come home, you're tired. Now comes time to implement this new CRM, and you're tired, but yet you've committed yourself to that. I'm going to do this for an hour, and it's really tempting, and a lot of us just give in. Today it's just particularly hard. I think I'm gonna give myself a rest today, and
that's why the first several years of business are so tough. Is exactly what you're describing it right now.
Great observation. Yeah. So it's not the people who can do things during that moment of inspiration that are successful. It's those who take that inspiration and they continue the implementation during the times when it's not so easy, when there's nobody there cheering you on or motivating you. You're out there by yourself, and all you want to do is go home or take a break or whatever. You gotta push through whatever you committed to. Don't overcommit. Sharpen your saw, get your rest time. But if you're committed, you got to do what you said you're going to do, and you got to build a strategy that's reverse engineer to be successful. And if you need some help on that, it's out there. It's everywhere. It's right here.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of business owners also who might be in that place where they need to like take that step. Like when they get home, go ahead and work for another hour, getting something built to that's going to save them like a tremendous amount of time by the end of the year. If you took all the hours that they wasted throughout the week, every week, for instance, like a price book. If you don't have a price book that you can quickly produce a price to multiple options to a customer, if you don't have that built and you have to come home every night and build those options out by hand, like that's gonna, if you won't take the time that it's going to take, and it's going to take a little upfront time to get that price book built. But once it's built, that's where the magic is.
Yeah.
Because now every time you have an opportunity that arises where you're actually giving somebody an equipment price, now you can actually build the price right there on the spot. Have your little presentation with you, go through the entire thing, boom, close the deal right there. Now this opens up a whole nother possibility of recruiting and hiring. And because now all of a sudden you need an install crew, you need another van, you need to go talk to your bank, you like it. So I think some people would just rather just come home and work on their bids instead of, because it is, you can do one thing at a time. You can. That will save you a tremendous amount of time. But if you really want to grow it, you've got 5 to 8 years of pretty hard work ahead of you. That's just reality.
Unless you take our course, of course. Just kidding.
I mean, it helps tremendously. It'll save you a ton of mistakes, because like half the time, if we could just not make the mistakes, that's why it takes 8 years instead of 4. It's because you made so many mistakes. You wasted so much money that shouldn't have been wasted on stuff you didn't need.
Well, you're going to make mistakes anyway, and
Yeah.
you're going to get stronger because of that, because you're going to have to get up off your butt and stand up and do it again, right? You get knocked down over and over. But the nice thing is when you learn how life works, and you can go in and do a little bit of homework and take maybe some training and maybe read a book. It kind of, you can learn from somebody else's mistakes occasionally, especially on really important things
Yeah.
like how to
Yep.
price or how to sell. I mean, it's really a tough lesson for those of you guys out there, and how expensive those leads are, and then you're standing there and you got an opportunity to sell a 8, 10, 12, $15,000 system, but you just can't seem to sell it. Um, it's worth taking a sales training class and learning a process,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. I have one of my I've got a book I've talked to you about that's man, we're getting close. Like I'll probably have my first copy with in less than a month. I'll have like my first copy to look at from two different publishing houses to be able to see how they look and feel, decide which publisher I'm going with. But or printing company, I should say, not publisher, printing company. So but one of my principles is get out of the truck. And the way that I wrote this book, it's 25 principles for the HVAC industry, but it's for everybody. It's not just for owners, it's for technicians, for comfort advisors, it's for everybody. And when I say get out of the truck, I mean like you're not Superman. There will come a time where health problems start happening where you don't have the energy you once had to work those late nights or to get frustrated every day getting stuck on a call and have whatever it is. Even if you get really good, like even the best technicians, they don't get stuck nearly as often, but they do get stuck, and there is some frustration and irritation that comes with that. There's some stress. Maybe it's the team that you work for, the stress of the office that the office puts on you. I don't know. I'm just saying that everybody's goal in the industry should be to get out of the truck. You can stay in the truck for a couple decades if you want. That's cool. I did, but I didn't know what I know now. And if I would know what I knew now, I would have worked a lot harder, a lot earlier to get out of the truck,
Sure.
especially when I opened my business,
Yeah.
especially. So, how do you do that? Well, that's going to take Brian Tracy. Once again, he says that the majority of people who do get ahead in life, they study an average of 2 hours a day for 5 days a week. So they still take the weekends off to spend with their family, but they come home, they eat dinner, spend some time with the family, put the kids to bed, and then they study for 2 hours. And they do that for 5 days a week. And you can still have the weekends off and do whatever you want. But when you really want something, it's going to take effort. You're not just worth more money. You're not, it's not that you can't improve your skills by going to work every single day, but that little extra, that's really what it takes. It's like going above and beyond for yourself.
Sure. And it's proactivity. That was one of the big
Yes.
things for me. I think at first you start to get the phone ring, you start to get the work, and you especially during peak season, you're just in reactive mode. You're just reacting to the phone, you're reacting to the
Yep.
calls, you're reacting to the demands. And then when everything stops, you
You switch to inactivity
well
because you're
you
tired.
yeah, inactivity because you're tired. But you should be doing proactivity, but you haven't learned that skill set, so you think that the solution is you need better advertising. And maybe you do, right? And so you're looking for a marketing agency, and they're out there, and they'll take your money. But we have to look at the big picture and see the seasonality of our work and how to manage that monster and put strategies in place so that we don't have to depend on that all of the time. And so that does require like you said, the proactivity of sitting down and writing your price book or working on your price book and putting all that time in there so that all of a sudden when you do run service calls, it's done, right? It's in place. Or SOPs when you hire a technician. This is how we run a service call. Here's how you do your paperwork. It's already, just follow the steps, right? Teach them, of course, but here's your reference book in case you forget. Here's an example of how to properly fill out an invoice or how to properly um, how we do a service call here. A
Yeah, how we
sequence
have the
of
conversations with the customers. What do we say? How
yes,
do we collect payment? How do we ask for payment? This is something that's often overlooked, but if you're funny about money, that's what my business partner
that's
says.
that's a
You're
good one.
funny about the money.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah,
funny about the money, that energy is going to transfer to that customer. And all of a sudden, maybe they don't feel so quite right about that top package that you recommended because you haven't gotten used to saying that one's just $2,800. Instead, you get funny about it. When you get funny about it and you start to get, you know, I know I might be cutting out just a little bit, but if you get like fidgety about it, then it's good to practice. This is something I haven't even talked about to my clients, but it's good to practice. Like, have you offered a $45,000 job before? Two system, full duct, everything, with all the bells and whistles. Have you ever even offered that? Because if you've never offered it before, when you talk about that type of numbers and you're used to like a $7,000 job, you might get fidgety and a little nervous when you're talking about it. You need to get used to having those types of conversations. As as minor as that sounds, if you're weird about it because you don't see, because this is is the problem is you don't see the value in what you do, and because that's just what you do, and like one of my other mentors says, the possibility is you actually start to understand what your everything that you've put in up to this point in your life to get the knowledge and experience and the training to be able to diagnose things, to be able to figure things out, to be able to have those conversations with the customer. That's the possibility, that you can, get good at asking for the sale and having those conversations. But the problem is if you don't value anything you do, then the possibility goes away because you're just going to get weird when it comes to talking about money and talking about that exchange and feeling like it's what you have to offer doesn't equal the price because it's just a hot surface igniter. It's just a blower wheel replacement or a blower motor replacement. It's just a heat exchanger replacement, right? In your mind, like you may have performed 50 of these, or 100 of them. And so to you, it's easy. And it's just, you don't see the value because you can do that in an hour and a half, whatever it is. But until you start to understand, here's what I've learned. Instead of placing all of your concern on the money, if money is a concern for you, when it's time to ask, when you build some options, maybe you leave stuff off of your options because you don't want the price to be too high. You want them to say yes. Maybe you haven't had some sales in a while and you need the money. I don't know what the issue is, but if you're just funny around the money, then maybe you keep that option low and that's what we focus on. And instead of being concerned and focused on that, focus on the result that the client gets. What do they get? They get a system that actually runs to capacity now, that maybe hasn't ran to capacity for the last 5 years because there's been a quarter inch of crap on the blower wheel.
that's
Now they
a
get a lower utility bill.
Yeah,
Now they get, like, think of everything they get. Now they get cleaner air to breathe. Now, when you think about that, when you think about the outcome, and that's where our attention is, we don't have to, it's not about the money anymore.
it's called a paradigm shift. The example, as best I can recall, I'll for those of you who hadn't read the book, I'll little spoiler alert. I believe I'm going to do it the best of my memory. So the guy's getting on the train. He's in the city, New York City, I think it was, and this guy gets on. Man gets on with his two kids. And before they got on, everybody's relaxed, everybody's chilled, it's quiet, the ride's quiet, it's nice. And these kids are all over the place. And they're jumping on here and they're putting, this, that, and the other. And the guy tells the dad, he says, "Sir, do you mind controlling your kids? They're disrupting the peace here. Everybody's relaxing." And so he's frustrated at the dad because he's not taking his kids and keeping them in check. And the dad is like, it's like he comes out of his own mind and he says, "Yeah," he says, I guess I should. He says, "I don't know. We just got back from the hospital. Their mom's terminal, and I guess they don't know how to handle it, and I certainly don't know how to handle it." And then, Stephen Covey's like, all of a sudden, boom, his whole, perception of this reality just changed, and he's more like, "Well, how can I help you? Is there anything I can do?" And he wants to be supportive and maybe entertain the kids, and so it's not necessarily what you're looking at; it's the way you perceive it. Okay, that's called a paradigm shift. And when you have
Yeah.
the paradigm shift on the money, and if the money is funny, I get that. I mean, maybe your heart surgeon thinks it's just a check valve you're going to put in your heart because yours isn't working. I hate charging, $200,000 for
Yeah.
surgery, right? Well, to the
Right.
recipient,
Oh,
they're
he
not
doesn't
really
hate
worried,
it. He
right?
doesn't hate it. He's not
It's
funny
about the
about the money.
benefits. Yeah, and so um, but then too, what really helps you is to go through the financials training. Listen, when you have technicians, one of the important things that you need to do is explain to you how, all the expense that goes into this and what it really costs to run that service call, what it really costs for your van to pull in that driveway. And you as the business owner, I work with so many business owners, when we actually do the financials breakdown, and they just feel like, because they've got big hearts, they're good people, they just feel like, I can't charge that much because I know I struggle too. But that's really, you know, that's not your that's not your that's not your job. Your job is to provide the best darn service, Kelley McKay, that you can, right? And the price is the price, and it is what it is. And they have family, you have family, everybody can get a little bit of help if they need to, but you got to charge what you got to charge, or else you're just not going to be in business. And if you're struggling and you're putting all this overtime, then in order to save them money, you took away from your family's time or your own mental peace or just a multitude of other spinoffs that could result. But yeah.
In our last challenge that was just last week, we teach on this concept and we show you how to price your stuff. And we had somebody come on, and he was like, he literally just went out on a call and he gave the price, the thermostat replacement, and he gave the price, and the guy just made a face. He was like, just made a face. That's all he did. And internally, he went in and he said, "You know what? I'm just going to give you like our pricing that, like as if you owned a maintenance agreement. So I'm going to give you this discount. Instead of this 365, it's going to be 250. Does that work for you?" He immediately,
Assume. Yeah.
so he literally, nothing was even said. Nothing was even said from the customer. And this is a customer that had four systems in his home. Nice big home.
Yeah.
But this is what we do.
Yeah.
We let our family starve so we can not feel guilty when we have nothing to feel guilty about. It's guilt is really what we're running away from. We don't want to feel guilty. And we think doing the right thing means charging as less as possible. So we're going to feel guilty because we don't see the value in what we just offered for the original price.
But for those who feel no
So
guilt and will charge over the top prices and they have no guilt about them, shame on them. You don't want to be that person, obviously. But
no,
there is a balance. To
but
Kelly,
when you aren't making it in your business
yeah, exactly.
and everybody around you, including your spouse, is telling you, I've had, we work with several, uh, husband and wife, businesses. And when somebody in that relationship, one of the spouses saying, "Hey, look, you're a Lamborghini. Stop charging Ford Pinto prices." You
Like,
know? So it's really, it comes down to that. And you can't, it's not about, um, it's all about results. That's what matters. It's results. So if you had plenty of calls during the summer and now you find yourself in February and you have no, like, the money accounts dwindling and there's no money, you have to do something different this summer. And it's not marketing. If it was marketing, then you already had a period where you had all the calls you wanted during the summer
is there
and
a
you still
book?
came out of that with virtually no money. So what makes you think, if you're going to have, now you're going to pay money for more marketed calls, which is going to cost you more? And even if you get more calls, did your bank account continue to climb and climb and climb and climb and climb at a very rapid pace during the summer when you were working till 10 o'clock every night? That's my question. Because if it wasn't, if
Yeah,
if it climbed, but then the bills came in and you paid out all the bills and you're left with $6,000 every month, you're not
yeah,
making it. That's
yeah.
not it's impossible for every single business to have plenty of calls for every single person on the team year round, pretty much. There's stuff to do, but they're not going to be productive things to do always. This is a seasonal business. There are seasons. There are things that you can do to help overcome the seasons so they're
Yeah.
not so low and long,
Yeah.
but the seasons will come. And
Yeah.
seasons come in the way of the economy and the way things are happening in your region, and, like, those can create seasons. The IRS can create a season for you when you find out you haven't paid enough taxes, the money, and they're asking for money you don't have.
Yep. Yeah. We're coming to the end of the hour there, big guy. If we hadn't already passed it, I didn't make note. I think we may have passed it. But is there a book that might tie that together? Do the E-Myth talk about that? It's been so long ago since I read that one. That because that teaches you
E-Myth
working
is
in
about
your
more
business,
like processes and
you're
systems,
working on your
processes and
business.
systems,
Yeah. Yeah.
working on your business, not in your business. It's more about that. I, you know, I just, earlier or towards the end of last year, I just finished Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Man, that is a good book. That is so relevant to everything you do in business and life.
Yeah.
It's so relevant. So you were talking earlier, and it made me think about, you were talking about proactive, reactive, inactive, and that made me think of win-win and
Win-win.
that whole concept,
Yeah.
and how that's with your customers, with your team, with your suppliers. Like,
It's got to be.
there are real strategies in that book that you can take to the bank.
Yeah. Well, the paradigm shifts are part of that change in the way you view things,
Yeah.
and it comes through insights and understanding. And although we don't like to admit it, we are ignorant about a lot of things in life. All that means is we just don't know, and sometimes you don't know that you don't know. We talked about that before, and that's okay. But ignorance is only an excuse for a little while. You at some point you're going to have to realize that the world doesn't care. Try that with the law. Be ignorant of the law and go break it and see if it keeps you out of jail or from paying that fine or for winning the judge over. I didn't know.
Yeah, we bury our heads in the sand and
Yeah,
pretend that things are better than they are.
yeah, it is. Well, good
So
topic, Kelly McKay. Where'd you come up with that?
This is what I've went through. Like I've lived this. I know what this is like. I've been there. I've been so deep in the hole. I didn't know which direction I was digging anymore
Yep.
because you get snowed under with work. So I get it. I know
And
exactly what it feels like, and I
and
know
let
how to
me
get out of it too.
and let me tell you how that feels later in life is you keep having the same problems throughout your entire life until
Yep.
you make the adjustment. And the way I don't remember where I read this, maybe you remember this one, Kelly, is life keeps teaching you the same lessons over and over until you learn them. And once you do, you make the change and you got it. But if you're having the same struggles, you haven't learned the lesson, you haven't made those changes.
there is a there is a great story, and I tell you, we'll have to talk about it next time. I wish I'm sure I could search it and find it and pull it up, but it's Wayne Dyer tells this story, and it's like, and I can't tell it. I don't know the whole thing. I've only heard it like 3 or 4 times. But he's like, I'm walking down the street. There's a hole. I fall in the hole. You know, then somebody comes along, helps me out. The next day, I'm walking down the street. I know there's a hole there. I still fall in the hole. And then he keeps going and it gets progressing. It's progressive, you know.
Groundhog Day.
The next day I walk up, the hole's still there. I try to jump over it, but I slip and fall in again or whatever. And then it's like eventually you just stop walking down the street with the hole in it. You like you take another route, you cross the street. But for some reason, we tend to stay stuck, repeating the same things over and over again, and we get the same results when that happens,
Yep.
and then we're surprised, and we like to blame, complain, justify, excuse make a why on
And rationalize
why
the
we're
other
still
guy's just
here.
lucky.
Yeah,
I had a
yeah,
guy
yeah.
back in the day. Yeah, he was talking about the guy we used to work for. He said he's just got that golden touch. Everything he touches turns to gold. He didn't have to do what we do. And then he started. I was having success that he wasn't, and then he was. There was a little bit of friction there. I think I mentioned that last time in a prior story. I don't want to repeat it, but yeah, he just had. We call those type of guys Vicky because they're victims in life, you know, and you don't want to be a Vicky, you know.
So
Whatever whatever
this was
success
a
or failure
poem.
you're having is your fault, or you know, good for you. Your what's the opposite of fault? To your credit. Go ahead, Kelly. Sorry.
Oh no, I just wanted to. I found it real quick. This is worth reading. It's a quick poem. It says, "I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. I walk down another street. So, and I know I've heard that as an actual like a rhyming thing too, where the poem rhymes, but
Yeah.
that's so real
Yeah, and if you're
that
listening for the lesson, you may just think, yeah, well, yeah, whatever. When you live it a couple of times and it starts to come around, you're already living it. When you start to realize how it applies to your life, yeah, that's when it makes a difference. But anyway, appreciate you sharing that, Kelly. So I think we better wrap this one up. We're going to be here all day. We promise you guys
yep.
to try to leave it to 45 minutes, and this one I guarantee is probably an hour and 15. there, but I'm guessing. But I didn't look at the clock this time. But great job, my brother. Anything going on over
Into
on
you,
your
man.
side before we sign off? Anything happening?
One more thing, a story.
Okay.
And then we'll go. It's there was this engineer, his name is John Roebling, and him and his son, which his name was Washington, they built they wanted to build, they were both engineers. They wanted to build the Brooklyn Bridge, which takes you from Manhattan Island to Brooklyn. And everyone said it couldn't be done. But John knew that it could be done. So he got the funds together, he got support, and they get to work on the project. Not very long, only a couple of months into the project, there's a horrible accident. John is killed, and Washington is left with permanent brain damage, and he cannot walk and he cannot talk. And everybody thought, oh, that's it. Like, this project's going to be shut down. We can't do it now because the main dudes, like, they're out. Well, Washington, his son, John's son, he could still think. And he developed a code for communicating with his wife. He could tap his finger and he could spell out words. And so by just tapping his fingers for 13 years, he communicated instructions to the other engineers on the project with his wife until it was completed. And now more than 150,000 people per day, pedestrians and vehicles, drive that bridge. So imagine that. Don't let these little petty excuses stop you from getting what you came to do done in your business. If you want to grow this business, then grow this business. Stop messing around.
Amen.
There's
Awesome.
no excuses. So
Awesome.
all right, man.
Great story. Okay, guys. We appreciate you. We'll pick this back up where we left off. You know, we can get long-winded a little bit sometime, but it's with the best of intentions. You guys be safe out there driving. Hopefully you listened to this long and you picked up a little extra bonus there towards the end. And, you know, reach out. You guys have any questions? You need any help? Get any input? Or you just want to say hi? We welcome that. And on behalf of Kelley McKay, you guys be safe out there. We'll see you on the next one.